chosen by God. Listen carefully, because if you found this video, this is not random. You weren't scrolling by accident. You weren't just curious. You were interrupted. There was a moment in your life, maybe you couldn't explain it, where everything almost went wrong. A relationship that nearly destroyed you. A decision that almost cost you your future. A path that looked normal on the outside, but was deadly in the spirit. And yet, somehow you were pulled out. Not because you were lucky. Not because you were smarter than everyone else. But because God stepped in quietly and blocked what you couldn't see. You were chosen. And when God chooses someone, He also removes them from schemes meant to consume them. This video is not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Because what God rescued you from was far more dangerous than you realize. The scheme you never saw coming. The enemy rarely attacks chosen people loudly. He doesn't always come with chaos, darkness, or obvious destruction. No, for the chosen, the trap is usually comfortable. It looks like love. It feels like opportunity. It sounds reasonable. That's the scheme. You were being slowly positioned into a life that would drain your purpose, silence your calling, and keep you busy but empty. You almost settled into a version of life where you survived, but never fulfilled why you were created. Some of you were seconds away from binding your destiny to the wrong people, people who would benefit from your light, while slowly dimming it. Others were walking towards success that would have cost you your soul. Money without peace, status without direction, validation without truth, and you didn't even notice the danger. Because the scheme wasn't evil on the surface. That's why it was deadly. But God noticed. He saw the conversations you couldn't discern. He saw the doors opening that looked like blessings, but were actually detours. So He disrupted your plans. He allowed confusion, delays, separation, discomfort, not to punish you, but to protect you. If you're honest, you didn't escape because you were strong. You escaped because God intervened, and that alone should make you grateful. Why you had to be pulled out. God doesn't remove people from situations without reason. If He pulled you out, it's because staying would have cost you everything. You were becoming someone you weren't created to be. You were shrinking, compromising, explaining away things that disturbed your spirit. Chosen people feel uncomfortable in places that drain truth. That's why you felt restless even when things looked fine. That unease, that wasn't anxiety. That was divine warning. The scheme was subtle. Stay distracted long enough, and you'd forget who you are. But God said, no, not this one. He closed doors you begged Him to keep open. He removed people you prayed would stay. He shattered plans you thought were perfect. And only later did you realize. He saved you from becoming a version of yourself you would have hated. The pain of being pulled out was real, but the destruction of staying would have been permanent. That's why today, you're still standing, still searching, still hungry for truth. Because chosen people aren't meant to blend in. They're meant to break cycles. And God pulled you out because your story doesn't end in the scheme. It begins after the escape. Why the scheme was personal. The scheme wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. And it definitely wasn't meant for everyone. It was designed specifically for you. You see, ordinary lives don't attract strategic attacks. Average destinies don't require elaborate traps. Only people with weight in the spirit do. The enemy studies patterns. He watches bloodlines. He observes who carries influence before they ever gain a platform. And you were marked long before you understood why life felt harder for you than others. The scheme wasn't about ruining you overnight. It was about slow erosion. If he could keep you tired, you wouldn't pray. If he could keep you busy, you wouldn't listen. If he could keep you emotionally attached, you wouldn't obey. That's why the trap came wrapped in familiarity. That's why it felt safe. That's why it almost worked. You were being groomed into silence. And the moment you started questioning, the moment you felt that inner resistance, the pressure increased. Confusion intensified. Emotional warfare escalated. Spiritual heaviness grew stronger. That was the confirmation, because resistance only appears when something valuable is being threatened. The moment God intervened. There is a moment, often quiet, when God steps in, not always with thunder, not always with a miracle, sometimes with a disruption, a sudden loss of peace, an unexpected ending, a door that shuts without explanation. You thought it was rejection. You thought it was failure. You thought it was punishment. But heaven called it rescue. God didn't pull you out when you were ready. He pulled you out when the danger reached its peak. Because had you stayed longer, you would have normalized what was poisoning you. And once poison feels normal, it no longer triggers warning. That's why the separation hurt so much. Because God had to move fast. He removed you before you bonded deeper, before you invested more, before your identity got entangled with something He never assigned to you. What felt like loss was actually extraction. And extraction always hurts. When something doesn't want to let you go. What changed after you escaped? After God pulled you out, something shifted inside you. You may not have had clarity yet, but you had distance. And distance brings discernment. Suddenly you started seeing patterns you once defended. You recognized manipulation where you once saw love. You noticed exhaustion where you once called it passion. That's not bitterness. That's vision returning. Chosen people don't come out of traps the same way they entered them. You're more alert now, more guarded, more selective. Not because you're cold, but because you're awake. The scheme failed because it required you to stay unaware, and awareness is lethal to deception. That's why you can't go back. Even if you tried, your spirit knows too much now. And that's exactly why God pulled you out, before it was too late. The hidden resistance around you. When God pulls someone out of a scheme, it's not just the situation that reacts. People do too. Some didn't celebrate your escape. Some grew distant. Others became subtly hostile. And you felt it. Not everyone wanted you free. Because some people benefited from you being confused, accessible, and available. Your growth disrupted unspoken agreements. Your awakening exposed hidden intentions. Your separation revealed who was only comfortable with you when you were small. That's why the energy shifted. Chosen people trigger resistance simply by becoming aware. You didn't accuse anyone. You didn't confront anyone. You just changed. And that was enough. Some smiled but withdrew support. Others questioned your decisions. A few tried to guilt you into returning to what God already removed you from. That wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation. Because when God elevates your awareness, He also exposes who can't follow you into clarity. Why isolation followed your escape. After the rescue came the silence. The phone got quieter. Invitations slowed. Conversations felt shallow. And you wondered if something was wrong with you. But isolation isn't always punishment. For the chosen, it's often preparation. God isolates what He intends to refine. He pulls you away so your identity can reset, without interference, pressure, or noise. This season wasn't about loneliness. It was about detox. Detox from opinions. Detox from expectations. Detox from roles you were never meant to play. In isolation, you started hearing your own thoughts again. Your prayers got honest. Your discernment sharpened. And slowly, without realizing it, you stopped chasing what once chased you. That's growth. God wasn't removing connection. He was removing contamination. Because what's coming next for you requires clarity, not crowd approval. The protection you're under now. Here's the part most people don't understand. Once God pulls you out of a scheme, He doesn't put you back into vulnerability. You're under protection now. That's why certain doors won't reopen. That's why certain people can't access you like before. That's why old temptations no longer feel appealing. It's not willpower. It's covering. God doesn't just rescue the chosen. He guards them afterward. You may feel slower, more cautious, less impulsive. That's not fear. That's wisdom replacing impulse. The scheme required access, and access has been revoked. What once drained you no longer reaches you. What once confused you now looks obvious. And what once almost destroyed you now only reminds you of how far God has already brought you, why your life can never go back to normal. After God pulls you out of a scheme, He doesn't return you to the same version of life you had before. Normal is no longer an option. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. You've survived what should have broken you. That's why fitting in feels impossible now. Conversations that once entertained you feel empty. Goals that once excited you feel small. Places you once enjoyed feel heavy. That's not arrogance. That's alignment shifting. Chosen people outgrow environments before they outgrow people. And when your spirit grows faster than your surroundings, discomfort becomes unavoidable. You're not meant to live on autopilot anymore. You're not meant to chase what everyone else is chasing. You're not meant to measure success the same way. God didn't save you just to blend back in. He pulled you out because your life carries assignment, not just activity. The authority you didn't know you gained. Here's what most people miss. When God rescues someone from a scheme, He doesn't just remove danger. He transfers authority. Authority over temptation. Authority over fear. Authority over cycles that once controlled your bloodline. You're not fighting the same battles anymore. You're finishing them. Things that once overpowered you now require permission, and you're no longer granting it. That's why your boundaries feel stronger. Your no feels final. Your discernment feels sharp. You didn't become harder. You became rooted. The enemy lost leverage when you survived the trap. Because nothing intimidates deception more than someone who has already escaped it. Your presence alone disrupts environments now. Not because you speak loudly, but because you carry awareness. And awareness is power. Why gratitude is your weapon now. At this stage, God isn't asking you to fear the past. He's asking you to thank Him for it. Gratitude seals the rescue. When you thank God for what He pulled you out of, you shut the door permanently. No nostalgia, no second guessing, no emotional return. You don't miss what almost destroyed you. You honor the God who saved you from it. Gratitude turns survival into testimony. It turns pain into proof. It turns confusion into clarity. That's why your heart feels different now. Softer toward God, stronger toward life. You don't need revenge. You don't need explanations. You don't need closure from people. Your closure came the moment God removed you, and you lived the moment you finally understand. There comes a moment, usually in silence, when everything finally makes sense. You stop asking why it happened. You stop replaying what you lost. You stop wishing it had ended differently, because you realize it ended exactly when it needed to. God didn't remove you too early. He didn't wait too long. He pulled you out at the precise moment the scheme was about to succeed. If you had stayed a little longer, you would have compromised something permanent for something temporary, and God will never allow the chosen to trade destiny for comfort. That's why the escape didn't feel gentle. That's why the ending wasn't clean. That's why it hurt more than it should have. Because you weren't just leaving a situation. You were leaving a future that didn't belong to you. And now you can finally see it. Grateful to God. Take a moment and thank God, not quietly, but deliberately. Thank Him for the doors that slammed shut. Thank Him for the people who walked away. Thank Him for the confusion that forced you to slow down. Because every disruption was protection. Every delay was divine. Every loss was an extraction. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You were preserved. Preserved from becoming someone you would have had to recover from. Preserved from attachments that would have drained your calling. Preserved from a life that looked safe, but was spiritually lethal. If God didn't pull you out, you wouldn't be here watching this. Let that sink in. You're still breathing because heaven intervened. You're still searching because purpose survived. You're still standing because the scheme failed. And it failed because God chose you. So walk forward without guilt, without fear, without looking back. The chapter you escaped no longer has authority over you. Your life belongs to God now, not because you were perfect, but because He was faithful. Be grateful, stay alert, and trust this. If God pulled you out once, He will never let you fall into the same trap again. You are chosen, you are protected, and your future is intact. Grateful to God.